before we got to this 7th episode of The Acolyte, it's pretty well known that a lot of people out there are saying this is one of the worst Star Wars products ever put out.
The worst. Really the worst.
Of course, there are those who, are lovingly referred to as Disney shills, who continue to find, a diamond in this roughest of roughs, at least until this episode, because guess what? Even Grace Randolph had trouble finding this to be a fantastic episode.
Aw, man! That was embarrassing. It was real embarrassing.
And as a lot of people suspected, the 7th episode was a flashback episode. And actually, I thought it was going to be, flashbacks interspersed with some conversation between Sol and May about what actually happened, 16 years ago. But no, it was basically just, the whole episode was a continuation of the 3rd episode, just, from a different perspective.
You're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
Yeah, basically, this is the 3rd episode with another maybe 10 to 15 minutes of new footage at best, but, from the Jedi perspective. And they were probably actually filmed at the same time. Makes sense, but it really, throws off everyone's calculations of 8 episodes, $180 million, 22 million episodes. That throws that calculation out the window.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Anyway, the question, the mystery of this whole show is what happened 16 years ago? How did, Witch Mountain suddenly burn down? How did all the witches die? What did the Jedi do? Everything seemed to point to, the Jedi being bad guys, but in reality, just turned out to be a whole bunch of miscommunications and people being dumb.
And they are so dumb.
Like really, really dumb. Okay. So it turns out this Jedi team, Sol and Dara, Kalnaka, and Torben, they're all on Brendok to search out some sort of virgins in the Force, which apparently was so powerful, it was able to revitalize life on this planet, which I thought was, without life. So they're out there with, I'm guessing, virgins detectors, trying to find, the source of whatever recreated life. And along the way, it just so happens that Sol runs into May and Osha in the forest.
Let it go, May.
Yeah, I actually thought that they were there to investigate the witches, because that's kind of what the 3rd episode implied, but not at all. It was complete luck, complete happenstance that he ran into them. So he follows the girls to Witch Mountain and sees them being, trained, which looks kind of rough. They do get pushed around a little bit, and he interprets it as some sort of abuse or something, and decides, to act all heroic and save the girls because we're dealing with Jedi Protective Services or whatever this show is about. So he returns, to the other Jedi, explains what he saw. And around that, we also learn that Torben, who's there, is just not very happy with being on this assignment. He doesn't know why he's there. He's there for 7 weeks, but apparently they never told him about the virgins until we see it in this episode. But he's not happy. Yeah, he just wants to go home.
And I want to go home to Coruscant.
Yep. Back to Coruscant, back to where he feels comfortable. 7 weeks of camping, that's just too much for Torben. He just wants to go home. Yeah. And that really is his entire motivation for basically what happens to him in this episode. Did I mention the words really dumb before? Let's probably throw in lame.
Lame.
So the Jedi go to Witch Mountain to confront the witches about the 2 girls. And basically, we get the scene which we saw in episode 3, where the girls come out. They're surrounded by all the witches. You saw episode 3 probably. If you didn't, lucky you. But we also get to see a little bit of what actually happened to Torben. We knew his mind got messed with, but we actually get to see what happens in his mind, which is basically Anesia, Mother Anesia, doing some very much appears to be dark side crap, messing with his mind, tempting him with what he really wants.
I would always let you have what you need.
I want to return to Coruscant.
Yes, his greatest desire, the thing that tips him in this whole episode, is he just wants to go home. Anyway, back on the ship, Sol insists that the girls get tested And for some reason, he has a sense that he is meant to have Osha be his Padawan.
Osha's too old to join the order.
I feel she's meant to be my Padawan.
This is actually still kind of weird where he gets this affinity out of nowhere. Look, I know that Qui-Gon very quickly took volunteered to take Anakin on as his Padawan learner, but at the same time, Qui-Gon did have some time with Anakin, got to see him display very Jedi tendencies, Jedi traits, Jedi skills. Literally, he sees the girls in the forest, meets Osha once, and like, I must train her. This is a little weird, creepy stuff, but I guess, consistent with what we've seen from Jedi today, especially in the Disney Star Wars universe. So we have a whole testing scene. We get a little bit of that interspersed in this episode, and they get the blood samples. And through the blood samples, they learn that the girls are, in fact, virgins. They were created somehow with manipulating the Force, two beings from one consciousness.
Maybe by tapping into a power dense enough to split one consciousness into two bodies?
Only a virgins could create that type of power.
Now, this is great for Torben because, his deepest desire, as revealed through the mind meld or whatever with Anesia, is to return to Coruscant. And they can only do that if the mission's accomplished, I guess. So let's go get the virgins. So he goes off to get the girls.
Stop! Don't you see? We just need proof of a virgins, and those girls are the proof. This is our ticket home.
I mean, they have evidence of it, but why use that? He runs off to get the girls, and Sol goes after him also on a speeder bike, while Indara and Cal Naka pursuing the ship, I guess, to go get them. Meanwhile, at Witch Mountain, we see a little bit filled in from the third episode, the conversations whether or not Osha gets to go with the Jedi. And then we get to see, the scene with Mother Coral, who is really not happy about this whole situation and kind of sets May down the path of being evil and dark and angry.
Good girl. Get mad.
Yeah, she gets May all upset about Osha possibly leaving, gets her all riled up. May goes and smashes a control panel so no one can leave the mountain. I guess this control panel controlled the one entrance to the mountain, and then goes off to confront Osha like we saw in episode 3. That's when the fire starts. Remember the huge fire starts after May threatens to kill Osha? Jesus Christ. But this time we actually see that the fire starting was in fact an accident. Yeah, May did not mean to do it. She just kind of dropped the lantern.
Mama! Mama!
Mind you, that doesn't explain why rock and metal is burning, why the witches decided to put their base on a flammable rock. Not that makes any sense, but guess what? This is still the show that had fire burning in the vacuum of space. At the base of the mountain, Sol catches up with Torben. They can't get in because May smashed the controls, so they decide to scale up the mountain. And once they get inside, they confront Mother Anesia, Coral, and all the other witches. And it's a very tense encounter.
The twins. Where did they come from? Easy, Torben.
While this tense encounter is going on, May rushes in because she's upset that the fire started. And then we get Mother Coral adopting sort of a battle stance with her axe, staff, whatever. Torben lights up his lightsaber, and then Mother Anesia goes all smoke monster from Lost. I don't know what the hell this is. But according to Leslye Headland, apparently, she said that Mother Anesia was transforming herself and May into the Force. Yeah, that doesn't look like transferring into the Force to me. It looks like some dark, evil crap. It looks dangerous and threatening and being directed at a small child. So Sol honestly does a very logical thing. He attacks what he perceives to be a danger. Yeah, I don't think Soul's wrong here. It looks like May is being attacked by Anicia. And then for some reason, despite being the smoke monster, I guess she can't move and she just sort of reforms around the lightsaber. So now Mother Anicia gets killed by a lightsaber to the gut. Now here's the crazy thing about this whole thing. Right before she's about to die, she says to Soul, I was going to let Osha go.
I was going to let Osha go.
Then why the hell did you adopt this weird, violent, dark smoke magic power, whatever? It's not a good look. I guess Soul didn't understand. Oh, when you go all dark magic, smoke monster, that means I'm giving you my child. So Soul's at fault for not understanding the international symbol of take my child to be raised as a Jedi.
How could he not see that?
No, it doesn't make much sense, but not a lot in this show does make sense. Regardless, it's now time for the Jedi and the witches to fight. Bunch of the witches launch arrows at Torben, who's using his saber to deflect them. Soul is fighting against Coril, but he really doesn't want to fight her, I guess, because, you know, he feels very bad that he kind of killed Mother Anicia and didn't really intend to or whatever. Still, the witches have they have something else up their sleeve.
You should not have brought him here.
Yeah, this is not a dumb move, actually. This is kind of a smart thing to do. They possess someone very powerful. They possess Kelnaka. So now we're going to get some Jedi Wookiee battle action. Honestly, the fight's kind of okay. I mean, it's nice to have a little bit of action in the show, but I really think they kind of undersell the power of the Wookiee. I mean, he's a 7-foot-tall Wookiee. Everyone knows that Wookiees are immensely powerful, fierce fighters, and he should flat out be wiping the floor with Soul and Torben. Not even just with a lightsaber. I mean, just physically, he could take him and rip him apart. But that's not what happens here for some reason. I guess they probably could have thrown in a line to make it make more sense. You know, fight them, Kanaka. I can feel you fighting the witches. You know, that he's trying to control the rage, control being overtaken by the witches so that he doesn't really hurt his friends. But yeah, I guess I'm telling a better story than Leslye Headland and her group of writers did. Regardless, there's nothing really to explain why he doesn't just flat out kill him. Fortunately, Indara shows up, jumps on top of Kalnaka's head, and breaks the witch's mind control. And guess what? That kills all the witches, I guess. Because they all just fall down in unison. Dead. I don't know how that happened. This seems like a very bad idea for the witches. Join your minds to take over another creature, and then you instantly become vulnerable to a mind strike from another person. Wow. It's just stupid. So they're all dead. Soul then runs off to save May and Osha and finds them, you know, across the chasm from each other, as we saw in episode 3, and he reaches out with the Force to save them. At least that's what you would think he would do. In fact, he's actually, I guess, trying to hold up the bridge. Why he's not using the Force to, you know, bring both girls towards him, I don't know. But he, for some reason, decides, I guess he can't use the Force strong enough, whatever. He decides to just focus entirely on Osha and save her. And then May falls, like we saw in episode 3, and then he runs over and grabs her. It's very confusing. Very confusing why this Jedi is not using his powers to the full ability, but I guess this is the story that's being told.
This is a terrible story.
Well, the whole thing ends, the whole episode ends with the Jedi leaving and Dara telling everyone that we're not going to tell the council what exactly happened. I'm not certain why. That seems actually to be the bad move. The cover-up is always worse than the crime itself, as I recall some people saying. But they decide not to tell the council what happened, and that Soul's finally going to get his Padawan that he's always wanted. And yeah, that's kind of it. Except, of course, for that the song that shows up at the end, which actually I didn't know about until heard some people talking about later online. Yeah, that weird ass song. I forget, The Power of Two, I think it's called. I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's just, I thought this episode was bad enough. And then when I watched it again, the music made it even worse. I mean, Jesus Christ. So that's it. That's this episode. Yeah, nothing really nefarious or evil from the Jedi. Just a lot of stupid actions and miscommunications. And the motivations, I've said this before, none of the motivations in the show make any sense. Everyone's changing their motivation, their actions, their characters left and right. Torben, in this case, think about this. Torben was in a self-imposed exile, self-imposed meditative exile for 10 years because of the guilt that he felt for what happened on Brendok. Because he wanted to go home, he was homesick, and a bunch of witches got killed. What? He ultimately took poison to kill himself, I guess, because he was homesick? Is that the total of his story? And how the hell did this dude become a master? Because they called him Master Torben in the first episode, where he ends up dead, right? 16 years ago, he's this dumbass Padawan who's homesick. Then he spends 10 years in this meditative state. So there's a 6-year period of time that I guess he becomes so awesome that he becomes a Jedi master. That timeline doesn't work, but nothing in this episode works. Nothing in this whole show works. Soul, I don't even know what they were doing with Soul here. Soul's not a bad guy. He just is acting dumb. His whole idea that I must train Osha. Why? What is this? What is the source of this? Again, we're being asked to make up our own background, make up our own story. If there is something told along the way of why Soul wants to have a Padawan so much, or why he doesn't have a Padawan, then maybe there'd be more investment in the character. But we don't have that. Instead, we just get a guy who's like, I must train this girl I've just met. This is like weird, creepy Chris Hansen territory. Let's be honest. It comes off creepy. It's really creepy. But I guess that's the most consistent thing with this show. The inconsistent characterizations and motivations. And that's the 7th episode. Again, I thought we'd be interspersed because there's only one left. I don't know how the hell they're going to wrap this up. And I guess maybe they'll get a second season. I don't see how any of this can be told in just one episode. Whatever they're telling. But we'll see. We'll see what comes from the genius mind of Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. Questions, comments, witticisms down below. Click all those good buttons. See you guys next time.